Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Nerd of the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I'm your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. Kat is otherwise indisposed. She is dealing with an emergency involving one of her friends, so, she's out and about taking care of that, so we wish her the best. But Skyblaze, you're back with us! Yay!
I ain't dead.
So, yes, you have come back from the butcher shop, and you appear to be in one piece, more or less.
I have new holes in me.
So, for those who've been wondering where you've been, what exactly has happened to you? What adventures have you been on?
Well, November of last year, I was diagnosed with a severe gallbladder infection and gallstones. Not long after that, they attempted to remove it, but it transpires that I am allergic to a whole bunch of common anesthetic medication, so I went into anaphylaxis on the table as they were trying to slice me open. By the way, that is not fun. I do not recommend it. So then transpired a whole bunch of arsing about while they tried to figure out what anesthetics they could use on me without murdering me. So that wasn't fun either. And then, 3 weeks ago, it finally got taken out. And I am feeling much better for it because it's been 6 months of abject misery.
Yep. So that's where Skyblaze has been for the last 6 months, which in internet time is an eon.
Pretty much. I'm fairly sure that everybody has forgotten who I am by this point.
So, but it's good to have you back, and Brian passes along his wishes as well from his travels.
Oh, that's nice. Hello, Brian, if you're listening.
But we've missed you, and we're glad to have you back. And that large sack over there is all of your Ask the Geek questions.
Oh God, don't move! It'll fall over and crush us all.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Many of them have to do with Sonic, so
Okay. Might as well get on with it then.
So, but but we got a great show for you guys tonight. Tonight we're discussing something that me and Skyblaze have. I don't really want to say looking forward to, because that implies that we were excited about it. But I would say dreading, and that is
anticipating at best.
Yeah, hoping it wouldn't be a disaster. And that is ReBoot: The Guardian Code, the reboot of ReBoot.
Continuation.
Yeah.
Clusterfuck.
But so yeah, that's our main discussion topic for this week. But of course, there's business to talk about. So before we get started, we need to address the elephant in the room. Skyblaze, I know that you're very fond of Stampy, but I'm afraid we just don't have enough money in the budget for his food, and I think we can both agree that waste disposal has become problematic at best. So I'm sorry, but he's got to go to a zoo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that taken care of. The other issue that needs to be discussed, and this is something that I've gotten a lot of emails about over the last couple of weeks. It's if you've been on the internet and been involved in the internet reviewer scene in any capacity for the last couple of weeks, you are probably aware of the Change the Channel controversy that's been going around, and the not so awesome doc that was released containing stories by myself and about 20 other people, all former Channel Awesome producers, detailing grievances with the site management. I've gotten many emails about this and other things. So if I were to address real quick the top 4 questions that I've received in my email over the past couple of weeks. Number 1, everything in there and everything that I said is true, and I meant every word of it. Number 2, I'm not totally all right, but I will get there with time. Number 3, I'm not going to comment on anyone else's stories or experiences. And number 4, no, I don't want to browse your selection of horny Russian housewives. Please remove me from your mailing list. I have to keep laughing or else I'll start crying. But this has been something that's been a long time coming. And I'm not going to rehash the details about what's in the doc, what has been said. But I will say that, it was an experience, mostly positive, to finally get my story out there and to be heard. And I want to say thank you to everyone who has sent me well wishes, asking after me and, seeing if I'm all right and whether I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. I also want to say hello again to all of our old Channel Awesome listeners who are just rediscovering us. You have a lot of catching up to do. But, one of the things that, is one of the questions that's been flying around throughout this whole thing, at least as far as my story, is, why is it only just coming out now? And the reason for that, the thing I didn't say in the doc is, my story that's in there, my team didn't even know what was going on. And the reason why I didn't tell them, and I want to issue an apology to you, Skyblaze, and to Kat and Brian, if you're listening, for not telling you this. The whole reason any of us is here doing this is because of me. And I felt that because of that, it was sort of my responsibility to, I guess, take the burden and shield you guys from, what was happening and from Mashad's bullshit. And anyone who's been listening to us for a long time knows that did a real number on me. It wasn't the healthiest thing to do, and it caused the show to suffer a number of times. So, but it's been very cathartic getting my, finally telling my story and getting it out there, because now I'm not really getting closure, because I don't think that, I'm ever going to get any kind of apology. That's just not going to happen. But I think I'm now in a place where I can finally say, you know what, it's done, and I can walk away from this. And so after, this segment, this discussion, that's what we're going to do. We're going to just, move past it and keep on keeping on, and not let it drag us down. But, Skyblaze, you're as much a member of the team as I am, and as Kat and Brian are. And, so it's only fair that I give you a chance to, say your piece and your feelings on, what you've learned on, what happened to us, and, your reactions to it.
Well, I learned that apparently, according to Mr. Michaud, I'm boring. I'm actually mentioned by name in that document. Apparently, I'm boring. So he can fuck all the way off. Keep fucking off until he gets back here, and then fuck off again. I really wish that there had been more. I wish I had known what was going on, so there was more I could do, and that I understood what you were going through at the time. I mean, there were a number of times when I and other members of the team were frustrated with you because we didn't understand what was going on, and we didn't understand why things weren't being done. And now I know that you were shielding us from that, and that's awful on a number of levels. But at the same time, it's over with now. It's so blatantly like the epitome of a sinking ship. But it's really nice that all this venom got drained from this wound. And hopefully now people will be able to move on and do something a bit more positive. All power to the people who are continuing to make content. I hope you'll go and support them as well, because a lot of them are doing great work. On a similar note, anybody who's still with Channel Awesome for whatever reason, don't harass them, don't pester them, leave them be. They might have whatever reasons they have. Those are their own reasons. Our issues were never with them. It was with management.
I think at this point it's just Guru Larry, who, by the way, is absolutely loving this whole thing. He loves the fact that he's the last man standing on the sinking ship. He's turning into a kind of performance art.
I think he was like put on his Twitter profile something about the champion of the Channel Awesome Hunger Games or something, which did give me a chuckle.
Yeah. Well, because he was kind of in a similar position that I was in. He was kind of kept off to the side and never really acknowledged.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of like, he's the last one there, so he's kind of daring Mashad to do something with him.
Yeah.
So, but there has been some good coming out of this. Our subscription count has doubled, more than doubled in the last couple of weeks.
New old people. Oh,
yeah. So we want to. So a lot of them are people who were with us when we were with Channel Awesome and are rediscovering us. To which we want to say, welcome back again. You've got a lot of catching up to do. We hope that we have we've gotten a better game since you last heard us, and a bunch of new people who are just discoverers. To which we say, welcome. We hope that we can entertain you and put smiles on your faces. So the fifth major question that I got asked over the course of the last couple of weeks is a lot of people asking, is there anything that I need or anything that they could do to help? To which I say, if you really want to help us out, give us a hand. Like us, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share us with your friends. We never really got a whole lot of help getting ourselves out there from Mashad, and we're kind of entering in a new chapter. So if you could share us with your friends, introduce us to people that people that you think we could entertain, it'd mean a lot to us. We'd love to get our stuff out there and put some smiles on faces. So that's that. Now Brian did record his thoughts, which he sent me, which I'm going to play here now. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Brian for a bit.
Hey guys, Brian here. First off, I'd like to apologize about my audio output. Currently, I'm in a hotel in Houston, Texas, and as such, I don't really have my recording equipment with me. I'm using my webcam mic, so that's why I sound so far away. So I've been given this time to sort of talk about the feelings of what transpired with the Channel Awesome and everything that's sort of melted down currently. A little bit of background, I was never on the site. Now, I did have aspirations. I did try to create a video series. I actually met some friends, and we hung out on a Skype chat for a lot of times. A lot of people in the back end. Good people, wonderful people that I treated terribly, terribly when I left. I went through a real kind of dark place for a while because of things outside of personal lives. So I'll preference that if any of those people hear this show, I'm sorry. I treated you very poorly. You were open and friendly to me the entire time and deserved way better than what I gave you. With that being said, I was a part of the community, and unfortunately, for a while the community was open and workable, a lot of it I left because I noticed that it was becoming inhospitable to a lot of people, to a point where it was no longer fun to be around. So I left Channel Awesome community and everything like that on the same time. And now to see that a site I tried to be on with the contributors and how they were treated, how my friend Gonzo, how this came out, how he was treated by the higher ups, made me extremely angry and frustrated because I didn't know. I didn't know any of this information. To see it come out now and the way it's just been rolling so far is I started angry, and then I started feeling almost compliant, like I wasn't shocked or I shouldn't have been shocked. And as more news grew from it and more revelations, I was heartbroken. I went back to being angry. The way it has transpired is not how anything should have really happened, and we let it happen this way. So I don't know how else I can feel about it now, other than I kind of want it to be over. I don't wish ill will on anyone. Former contributors, former producers, current producers, if there are any at this point. And I just hope that once again there's a place we can all go to have that community again and build each other up. be it on YouTube or whatever. But for right now, Channel Awesome as a website, I think, is dead. As a brand, might be very close to dead. Not fully. And really, it's the upper management's fault. No one else. They ran it to the ground and has run everyone else away. I've gone a little bit over my time, so I do apologize. So this is my just feelings on it, is that I'm upset and angry about it, and I just sort of want to get it over, and hopefully we can. So thank you guys. Don't know how to end this, but hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
So, we want to say thank you once again to everyone who has stuck with us, everyone who is just joining us, and everyone who is rejoining us. Welcome. This is Nerd to the Third Power. We hope we can make you laugh. And so we're going to get right started on that with our random topic of the week, which is a semi-recurring segment that we have where we just discuss something random and we get input from the listeners on their thoughts on the topic. And for this week's topic, I want to bring up a buddy of mine who is very health conscious. I think we can safely say that, we're getting older. We don't have that teenage metabolism anymore. And some of us, a lot of
speak for yourself.
A lot of us are trying to, get themselves in a bit of a healthier place. Well, this buddy of mine, he kind of went a little overboard. He actually works as a fitness instructor, eats health food all day, every day. Forget about bouncing a quarter off of his abs. He could actually catch a coin with his abs and throw it back at you. Dude is just a total health nut. But, every now and then, like once or twice a month, he will go to the local 24-hour Taco Bell and buy like $30 worth of those dollar tacos and just sit in his car and just put these things down. Just absolutely destroy them. And like I said, it happens maybe like once or twice a month. It's like some weird form of lycanthropy. Every full moon, he has to go out and just crush a Taco Bell. And he'll hate himself while he's doing it. I always know when he's done it because he'll make a big show about the fact that he's going to the gym every single day. I was like, oh, you went on a quesadilla binge. And he's just like, he's like, I can't help it. Just, every now and then, it's got some weird power over me. So for this week's random top of the week, I want to ask you, what is a trash food? And I don't mean like a junk food, like, a piece of candy or soda. I'm talking about food that is like actively horrible for you, that you love, or for whatever reason, you just can't stay away from. And I'll give you my example. First off, I absolutely hate McDonald's. I can't drink their watery shakes. I will only eat their burgers if there is literally no other option. And I would sooner be hung by my own intestines than eat their chicken nuggets. But I will absolutely annihilate a carton of McDonald's fries. Every time I've ever gone to McDonald's, I have never had a thing of their fries survive the trip from the restaurant back to my home. I'll just have the steering wheel in one hand, shoveling handfuls of fries into my mouth with the other. Because my hunger, much like Galactus, Devourer of Worlds, is an endless and insatiable thing that will one day consume all of reality, probably with a nice barbecue sauce. But yeah, McDonald's fries, I will just crush a thing of McDonald's fries, and like I said, I will hate myself while I'm doing it, but I love them so much for whatever reason. So, Skyblaze, what about you? What's a trash food that you're addicted to?
Okay, first of all, a caveat. I have spent the past 6 months, because of my gallbladder issues, on a very, very low-fat diet. At one point, just after Christmas, I was so poorly that I spent 2 to 3 weeks living on dry granola and Lucozade.
Oh, God.
Yep. It was depressing. One of the few things that I could have, which was actually wouldn't be awful for me, was plain salted popcorn.
Really?
Now, yeah. Now, I prefer, that terrible microwave butter salted popcorn. That is my favourite thing ever. I can do, since the age of about 10, I can make an entire bag of that stuff and just sit down with a book, have book in one hand, bowl of popcorn next to me, and just scoff the lot. I will do this quite cheerfully, despite knowing the fact that it is terrible false butter and salt and is awful for me.
Now, have you ever had it happen where you've reached into the bag, found it was empty, and you have no memory of actually eating the popcorn?
It depends on how good the book is.
Because I've had that happen. Like, I'll sit down for a gaming session, have a thing of soda next to me, and I'll reach over to take a swig of soda at a loading screen, and the can will be empty, and I'll be like, I don't remember ever drinking this. I'm pretty sure that's a sign that I have a problem. And on that note of carbonated beverages, is it just me, or does orange soda taste better the cheaper it is? Like, I went out to get some Chinese food last week for lunch at work because, again, my diet is just absolutely terrible. And they had this promotion going where if you ordered so much food, you got a free 2-liter bottle of soda. And they handed me a bottle of this, like, not even store brand orange soda. I mean, like, no brand orange soda. It literally just said orange across the label. And I took a swig of it, and I downed the whole bottle. It was just absolutely delicious. But I swear to God, I'm not convinced it wasn't simply red engine coolant. Like, this is delicious, but if I drink this whole thing, are my children going to be born with, like, 3 heads and 6 eyes?
Probably, yes.
Am I mutating my genetics by drinking this? So we want to put the question out to you, our listeners. What is a garbage food that you just absolutely cannot stay away from for whatever reason? So sound off in the comments or send us an email. Let's hear from you. What's a trash food that you absolutely can't stay away from? And then next up is our your favorite segment, my favorite segment, the elephant's favorite segment, at least until he gets sent to the zoo. And that is our Ask a Geek segment. And the way this works is, for our new listeners, you guys send us questions in the email to drgonzo@nerdofthethirdpower.com. We pick out the ones that we really like, we read them on the air, and then we answer them. So yeah, let me just dig in this mailbag here. Let's find some for you, Skyblaze, since you've been gone so long. Okay, all right. Here's a good one. All right, first question here. This is from Rick, and he asked you, what were your thoughts on Sonic Forces? He says that he didn't find it all that great, and he's wondering what you think Sonic Team needs to do to get Sonic back on track. So it's a 2-part question. Oh,
good grief! Right, okay. Sonic Forces was like, I'm trying to find a way to say this without it being insulting, and I can't. It was like, the kid version of Sonic. Like, Sonic Mania is for adult fans and Sonic Forces is for younger fans. And certainly the difficulty curve of it made it feel that way. There's been a lot of jokes about, modern Sonic being boost to win, but a lot of that really did feel that way. And it wasn't awful, it wasn't unforgivable, and it wasn't Sonic 06 or Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. But it could have been a lot better than it was. And I think one of the things that's missing is that they're putting a lot of emphasis on making these kind of vast, beautiful levels, and a lot of them are pretty impressive. And they're forgetting that you need to be careful with level layout, and you need to design how this is going to feel to play first, before you put the pretty environments on it. They're kind of going at it backwards. And also, there were some really nice ideas in Sonic Forces, and so they could have gone in a really interesting, dark, Sonic Sat AM sort of direction. A lot of it was a lot of the teasers early on were tending that way. And that would have been really fascinating, going through that kind of... you can have it like start bright and shiny, end bright and shiny, and go through this kind of dark morass in the middle. You can do that, it's okay. But they didn't. They just kind of completely bypassed it. There's a segment very early on where it's like, oh, Sonic's being held in the Death Egg and he's being tortured. And then you see him and he's fine. Hang on, I thought he was being tortured. He looks fine and sounds fine and is completely 100% fine. I'm sorry, what? If you're going to do something like that, do it properly. Don't just half-arse it, guys. Come on.
Do you think on a mechanical level, again, just purely from mechanics, do you think maybe Sonic just isn't meant to work in 3D? Because if you look at Sonic Mania, which was an old school 2D Sonic platformer, everybody absolutely loved it. And it got, pretty much universal acclaim. But I don't think I've ever seen a 3D Sonic get that kind of press. And I'm wondering if it's just, you think Sonic, by his nature, just isn't really suited for a 3D play environment?
I don't think that's true, and I think it is possible to do it. And there have been places where the gameplay does shine. I mean, in Sonic Generations, a lot of the 3D stuff was very, very good. When they get the level design right. I mean, Sonic Colors as well, bits of Sonic Colors. I mean, some of it was a bit ropey, but a lot of it was very, very good.
I still need to play that. I've been trying to run down a copy, but never been able to track one down.
It's worth playing. It's very good. It's when they stop using bottomless pits as kind of insurmountable waist-high fences to railroad you through a certain section and let you explore and let you dick about. One thing that might be worth doing, actually, is drop the time limit.
Yeah, because even in Sonic Mania, that was an issue that I had.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of a single Sonic game where I've ever run up the clock like that. But I did it regularly in Sonic Mania.
Yeah, certainly have an option where you can turn it on, but don't have it on by default, or give you an option to turn it off, or something where you can do that and put it as having the clock there as a self-imposed challenge is fine, but in the modern era of gaming it doesn't make a whole amount of sense, especially when you're making these vast, beautiful levels that are begging to be explored, and then you don't give us time to do it.
Yeah.
Or just have a free run mode. There you go.
And I just want to add, going back to Sonic Boom, know what your hardware can do before you go into the design phase. I will never not laugh at the fact that Sega thought that the Wii U could handle the Cry engine for Sonic Boom.
They didn't know it was going to be on the Wii U. They picked the Cry engine before they knew it was on the Wii U. But also, why in the name of God are you using Cry engine for a platformer?
Okay, so I guess that answers that question, so thank you, Rick, for that. Next question here. Let's see, this one comes from Lawrence, and he asked me what are my thoughts on the upcoming Mega Man X Collection and Mega Man 11. I'm really stoked for the X Collection, at least the first half of it. I was huge into Mega Man X 1, 2, and 3, and I really enjoyed 4 on the PlayStation 1. 5 and after was where the story kind of went a little off the rails for me, and the mechanics didn't really improve much either. So I'm not as excited about the second X Collection, but I'm definitely going to pick up the first one. And I find it interesting that they're releasing both collections simultaneously, which I think is, I think it's really neat. The one thing that really irritates me is only the first half is getting an actual physical release. If you buy the first X Collection, it's going to come with a digital download code for the second X Collection, which is really starting to really irritate me, because I'm a game collector. I like to have my games all lined up on the shelf so I can look at them and go, that's pretty. That's what my hard-earned money has gone into. And the fact that there are so many games that are being touted as being quote-unquote physical releases, but you're only getting download codes for, really irritates the hell out of me. And going back to Sonic, that was the reason why I didn't buy the Sonic Mania Collector's Edition when it came out, because it didn't come with a physical copy of the game. So, to answer the unasked question, yes, I am going to get the Sonic Mania Redux physical release when it comes out.
Which may or may not have accidentally been released on PS4 earlier today in Europe. Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't hear about this.
It was on Sonic Stadium. There was a leak of some description that got put on as an update file for Sonic Mania, certainly in Europe. I don't know if it hit any other territories. Apparently it didn't hit America, definitely. Which included some of the updated Sonic Mania Plus features. which weren't supposed to be out yet and were supposed to be paid DLC, last I heard.
Oh God.
So, yeah.
Did you jump on that, or did you miss the window?
I was working, so I don't think I got it. I did turn on my PlayStation and let it run for a while just to see if it would update anything, but I think I missed the window, unfortunately. I know at least one person on Radio Sega does have it, and has confirmed that it is a substantial improvement to an already brilliant game.
Okay.
So.
And then Lawrence has a second question, and I picked this because I knew you were going to be on the show tonight. And his question is, as a game collector, have I ever been surprised by something being rare or common? And I picked this because you and I actually had a moment where I had an eyebrow-raising moment. So a couple of months ago, I went into a little mom-and-pop toy store that happened to have a retro game section, and I picked up a Sega 32X and a copy of Knuckles Chaotix. Now, Knuckles Chaotix I had not seen in the wild before, but I'd seen plenty of 32Xs and just never picked one up because, I didn't have the money at the time. But now that I'm actually working a real job, I can afford it. It's like, okay, this is coming home with me now. And I was surprised when I posted pictures of my acquisitions to Facebook, and Skyblaze started wishing death on me because apparently the 32X is like finding the golden goose over there in Europe.
Yep. I think I think either you found or I linked you some eBay pages where listing the costs of the damn thing.
Yeah, you sent me one that was like a box 32X and it was going for like $500-$600 somewhere around there.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, whereas the one I found in this little shop was only like $30. So that was something that really surprised me.
I still haven't forgiven you.
So is that burning sensation that I feel every night? You burning a voodoo doll of me?
I couldn't possibly comment.
So, and then you've also mentioned a few times in the past that the original NES is also a rare find over there in Europe.
It depends which version it is. There was two versions, certainly in the UK. There's the NES Nintendo version and there's the NES Mattel version. The Mattel version, which is the earlier version, which is the one with the little robot thing whose name has temporarily escaped my brain.
Rob.
That is astonishingly rare, and certainly in the UK. I'm not sure about the rest of Europe, I'd have to look it up. But yeah, that version is incredibly rare. The later version, the NES version, which is the version I had, which came with the two controllers, the light gun thing, which I think it was called the Family Pack or something like that. That one's a lot more common.
Now, just to clarify, are you talking about the one, the toaster version, where you stick the console in sideways, then push down on it?
No. Sorry. No, the VCR version, the one where you put it in front and then press it down.
Yeah, the toaster.
What?
We call that the toaster. We call that the toaster over here for some weird ass reason.
No, the toaster version is the one with the top slot loader.
No, we call that the dog bone. Because of the shape of the controllers. We are apparently having a lost in translation moment here.
I don't think we even got that version over here.
I don't think you did. The Mattel version, now that surprises me. So I guess Mattel did the initial distribution of the NES
they
did,
UK? They did, yeah, but apparently they completely screwed the pooch on it and didn't actually distribute it very well.
Oh, okay.
It was in weird places, like, department stores that were primarily known for selling clothes rather than electronics. It was like, what?
Well, I mean, even then, England's a Commodore country, isn't it?
Oh, certainly, yeah. It was Commodore country, and because of Mattel screwing up with this distribution, and Sega making a deal with the company that later became Virgin, that's how Master System got its major foothold in the UK. And that's how Sega got established here.
Okay, all right. So that's about all the Ask Geek questions that we have time for this week. Thank you as always for sending to us through the email at drgonzo@nerdtothethirdpower.com. The email address, if you're watching on YouTube, will be below the video feed in the description. So, get those questions in. You might get it read on the air. And so with that, we are going to jump into our discussion segment this week, which is Reboot the Guardian Code, which I'm pretty sure that once we get started, Skyblaze is going to go from 0 to 100 on this. So I'm just going to sum up my thoughts by saying, in the immortal words of Mr. Horse from Ren and Stimpy, no sir, I didn't like it.
I've said before on this show that I find it more frustrating when there's a good idea in something and the execution is completely screwed than something that's just straight up terrible from start to finish. Reboot the Guardian Code is a classic example of this, of somebody taking a brilliant idea, in this case from a brilliant show that dates back to the late 90s, and just completely messing up every single aspect of it.
So, this is, and what's really kind of, I think, appalling about this is, this is, the reboot fandom has been clamoring for a continuation for like a decade and a half now. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen a fan base get teased more and more often than the reboot fandom, because we were hearing for a stretch of time, like, I think it was like once a year we'd hear, oh, the next reboot show is going to premiere next year, or it's only a year off, or it's in post-production, and then nothing.
Specifically, as far as I remember, what happened was they first announced that there was going to be another TV show. And then they announced it was going to be a series of 3 TV movies. And then they announced it was going to be theatrical movies. And then they announced that it was going to be a Netflix exclusive TV show. And in between all of these announcements, there were vast periods of time where nothing happened, or they'd release like a single teaser image that usually looked like shit. And the fandom would go, what the fuck? There was also the period where somebody involved in what was Mainframe is now Rainmaker helped to sponsor a comic. I don't know if it's still available. There's this webcomic that was okay, I guess. It was weird. But that was like declared non-canon pretty much before it was even completed. And a lot of the fans who were involved in its creation got completely screwed over, from what I understand. And then there's this bloody thing, which seems to have, well, certainly when the first trailer was announced, seemed to have next to bugger all to do with Reboot outside of the name and the Reboot symbol. And seems more like Power Rangers.
And in hindsight, we probably would have been kinder to this show if that had been all it was. But we'll get to that as we start digging into this.
We have opinions, internet.
Indeed. So let's. I guess we could safely say that those are our general we voiced our general thoughts on the show. So let's start by breaking the show down to its component pieces. So let's start with a quick recap of the plot of the first 10 episodes of Reboot the Guardian Code. So, Skyblaze, you want to go ahead and give us a rundown on the story, such as it is? He said with air quotes.
So, 4 teenagers with attitude at their first day of a new high school. Sorry, I fell asleep. Where was I? Oh yeah, boring, shitty, cliche plot. Are summoned to join this secret society of the new generation of Guardians who have to preserve cyberspace, and that is literally what they call it throughout the series. And there's this AI character called Vera who somehow, through very poorly explained plot convenience, ends up in a human body. and they spend their time having very boring slice-of-life drama in school and occasionally fighting things in cyberspace. And it's all very tedious for the most part, apart from Megabyte, who is the best thing about the show.
Yeah, and Megabyte is we're working for a hacker known as the Sorcerer, spelled
I forgot about him.
Spelled SOURCEREROR, like source code sorcerer.
And somewhere Terry Pratchett is turning in his fucking grave.
If any of this seems familiar at all, then I welcome you, fellow 90s child. You probably watched VR Troopers. Or if you were into really obscure shit like me, Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, because the whole dynamic between Megabyte and the Sorcerer was exactly the dynamic between Malcolm Frank and Kilo Khan in that show. Literally the only thing that was missing was for Megabyte to call the Sorcerer Meat Thing in a very Tim Curry sounding voice. But yeah, Megabyte is literally the only really redeeming thing about the show, and I gotta give credit where credit's due. The guy that got to do his voice does a very acceptable Tony J impersonation.
Mm-hmm. I would concur.
So, but just... like, let me just start by saying that, like, everything about this show felt very 90s to me. And I don't mean just in terms of the visuals and the presentation. I mean in terms of, like, the story writing, the character writing. You know, just everything about the show felt like a 90s Sentai ripoff. You know, all the characters... I mean, like Skyblaze summed them up as teenagers with attitude, and that's pretty much as far as their characterization goes. You have literally the 4 standard teenage archetypes. You have the jock, you have the rebellious teenage girl, you have the nerd, and you have the good-looking leader. And that's as far as their characterization goes. And then you also have Vera, who is Data 2.0, trying to understand humanity. And there's no real character to these characters, really. There isn't. No. You know, of course, the nerd gets a crush on the robot girl because that's what nerds did in the 90s. They fell in love with the robot girls because I guess weird science was the pinnacle of all writing in those days. It just there's nothing to them, and like, I can't even get worked up about how bad their character writing is because there's literally nothing there.
I've watched all 10 episodes, and I cannot tell you anything that these people do outside of going to school.
You know, the jock character, he's got the overbearing father who's pushing him to succeed, thinks his friends are delinquents. The leader has a missing father that, you know, we never learn anything about.
Yeah, you know, this show is sufficiently cliched that I bet the hacker character, the sorcerer guy, is actually his father.
Because we haven't stolen enough pages out of VR Troopers playbook.
Yep.
But, like, you know, everything about this show, it just feels like the love child of VR Troopers and Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. And the thing is, it's like, I don't know if that's intentional, because there's been a 4chan post that's been passed around since the show premiered. Apparently, this show got just buggered up the butt by executive meddling. Like, this is... It's everything... We'll put a link to the post underneath the video feed. I can't even... I thought I went through hell when I put out my story in the CA document. Then I read this thing, and I was like, wow, I had it easy. No one was expecting me to make a television show. But it's just this... and the thing is, like, you watch it, and it feels like... Skyblaze put it best before the show. It feels like a merchandise-driven show, just without the merchandise.
Yep.
So,
one thing from that post that certainly does ring true, apparently it was... all the CGI was done in Unreal Engine 4, rather than using a specific rendering pipeline.
Which Rainmaker actually had a legit animation pipeline.
Yep. they've had and developed a very, very good animation pipeline, which has been under development since the early 2000s. Some of the last reboot stuff in the 2001, I think it was done with like the 1.0 version of what ultimately became their current rendering package. Then they threw it all out for using Unreal Engine.
Which I guess brings us to the presentation, which is lacking. I mean,
yep.
Here again, Megabyte is the best thing about this show, because I will say this: his new character design is badass looking.
Oh yeah, the design is great. It's just when you compare the details from you go to say the end of season 3 or season 4 of the old show, and I hate that I have to say that, by the way, and look at his character design from the new show, and look how lacking in detail the new one, the Guardian Code version, is compared with the old one, and how unfinished the new one looks. It's like, what went wrong here?
Yeah, it really feels like, looking at the CGI, I really feel like I'm looking at something that's being played on a first model Xbox 360, and you know how on those first games on the 360 there was a lot of texture pop in. I felt like I was sitting there waiting for the textures to pop in, and it just wasn't happening.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. For those who don't know, I work for online VR publication, so I review quite a lot of VR games, which tend to be very high-end graphically, as a general rule. Certainly the big ones do. And a lot of them do use Unreal Engine 4. There's a game on the Oculus Rift called Robo Recall, which is done in Unreal Engine 4 and looks amazing. Unreal Engine 4 is a very powerful, flexible, versatile tool for doing animation. The trouble with Unreal Engine is that it is very complex, and you do need to optimize the crap out of it in order to actually make it look the way you want it to. And if you don't do that optimization, if you just leave everything stock settings, it's not going to look that good. And it feels like that's what's happened here.
So, but it just, and like I said, it's very hard for me to get worked up about the visuals. Now, I will get worked up when we get to episode 10, which we're going to say for the end of this show. But like, because there's literally nothing about it that is really noteworthy. It's all just very bland and unassuming and unfinished. And this extends, going back to the character writing. The performances are also very lacking from the actors. I mean, the most noteworthy performance in the whole show is the main villain, the sorcerer, and not in a good way. He just irritates the hell out of me, because he's basically a hacker working out of this warehouse, this empty warehouse, where he's surrounded by all these half-built computers, and he looks like he hasn't shaved in a week, and it's been even longer since he showered, and it's like somebody in the writer's office had a thesaurus and was just so excited about that, because he keeps on fucking repeating himself over and over, just saying the same thing in different ways. The absolute nadir of the proceedings was when he first brings back Megabyte, and the sorcerer's like, "I have a job for you, something I need done, a task, an assignment," and I'm like, "No, what you have is a thesaurus, and you need to chill the fuck out." We know what you mean.
It's also, he doesn't seem to have any motivation.
Yeah, it's like he's just there to be evil for the sake of being evil. Like he's just twirling his mustache. There's one episode where he's breaking into a bank, and he's not trying to steal any money. He's not trying to, get any assets to further his schemes. He just wants to zero out everybody's life savings. And I can't bring myself to give a shit about what he wants to plan. Now, on the other side of that, there was an episode where we got some hints that there might be more to him, and that was the episode where he had Megabyte hack the computer manufacturing company and stole, their super prototype. It's like, oh, great, we're getting some characterization. Maybe he used to work for these people. Maybe this computer that he's stealing is his own design, and maybe he feels like they stole it from him. Great, we're finally getting some kind of motivation here. And then the next episode he uses it to break into a bank, and the computer prototype is never mentioned again. So it's like, why the fuck are you even here?
So it's like, Gonzo, you and I both have a background in computing and in networking and know a bit about cybersecurity.
Yeah. Let me say that when it, like, okay, I kind of rolled my eyes when they mentioned that, oh, the Department of Internet Security has an asylum where it keeps all its viruses. It's like, okay, all right, this show takes place in the computer and they're just being cute. No, the Department of Internet Security is an actual government agency in this show. And I had to I had to hit the pause button and go beat my head against the wall.
Now, my actual favourite, and the one that was like, no, I can't. I actually missed most of this episode because I was playing Xenoblade Chronicles on the Switch in tablet mode instead, and let Tony, my husband, watch it. The episode where the sorcerer hacks a weather satellite to change the weather. Because that's apparently how that works.
Yeah, there's... Ow.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Megabyte is the only villain with any real motivation in the show, and rightly so, because, you know, again, this is recycling a recycling of themes from previous show. They reused the whole thing from Beast Wars, but with Megatron and Rampage, where he had a piece of Rampage's spark. The sorcerer has embedded some delete code in Megabyte's being and uses it to torture him whenever Megabyte gets uppity. I almost said Megatron.
What?
Too many characters with Mega in their name.
What would have been more interesting is if it's like, you know, if the sorcerer had been either was or was related to Megabyte's original programmer, and was just like, yeah, I made you and you do what I say. And Megabyte has no choice. And it's like, I am doing this and I don't know why. That would have been much more interesting than I torture you if you're getting uppity, because that's boring.
So, it's just...
God damn it, hire me to write this thing.
Yeah, you were telling me before this actually ran a D&D campaign based on
ReBoot. It wasn't D&D, it was a different system. But yeah, I ran an RPG tabletop game, which ran for quite a long time, which was set inside the ReBoot universe. And I also stirred in a bit of Tron and a bit of Dot Hack as well, just for a laugh.
And your friends consider that to be more canon than this show.
Yep.
Wow.
Which is flattering and amusing at the same.
But like, it's just... And the thing is like, that really bugs me is like, this is apparently just the first half of the season.
Oh god, there's more.
Yeah, there's apparently going to be another 10 episodes coming later this year.
Oh,
and
god.
It's also apparently Netflix is trying to branch out into production for actual television, because this show is going to be on Canadian TV later this summer. And you know that the moment I realized that that was going to happen was when I realized they left commercial bumpers in the Netflix broadcast. Let me say that again. A Netflix original series has commercial break bumpers.
I did wonder about those myself.
Why?
Because the universe hates us.
So, but really, all of this, like here, like before we go on to the show really shitting the bed in its last episode. Part of the reason I think it's fair to say why we're so disappointed in this is that, you know, yeah, we've been really down on this show so far this episode, but at its core there is like a kernel of a good idea within this program. And that's what really is setting us off, is there's a seed of a good show in here, but it's being strangled by so much bullshit.
Yep.
So now, with that, let's get into episode 10.
Buckle in, ladies, gents, and others.
So, basically, the way this episode runs down it's discovered that Mainframe, the computer that the original show was set in, has been hidden in the back of the command center of the New Generation Guardians. It's just tucked in the back corner gathering dust. And they discover this computer, they switch it back on, and they go into Mainframe to hunt down Megabyte, who has gone in looking for his sister Hexadecimal. And along the way, they run into Bob and Dot and Enzo and Frisket. And, most of our favorite characters from the original series. I'm a little pissed off that Mouse and the web server didn't show up, but, we can't all get what we want for Christmas. And that's where things just go completely off the fucking rails, because this episode is basically one giant middle finger to fans of the original show, and nowhere is this more evident than when they bring in what I can only guess is the user from the original series, and he's a basement-dwelling ReBoot fanboy who has all of this ReBoot merch on his walls, including, God help me, a giant Mike the TV statue. After 20 years, Mainframe is back online. And I was like, okay.
That's not the worst line. Fuck you too,
show.
That's not the worst fucking line.
What's the worst fucking line for you?
All those years in the basement were not wasted, Mom.
Now I can tell my mom that all those years in the basement weren't wasted. Oh, God.
Yeah, Jesus. It's just... This is what the creators of this fucking thing think of us as fans. This is how they see us. Wow!
Samuel Clemens tasted less bile in his throat when he saw the South ravaged by Reconstruction than I taste watching this example of fandom abuse. Like, I can't even say that it's meant to be a parody, because there's such naked contempt in that character and in his characterization that I can only pray that character wasn't conceived by any of the writers of the original show.
It raises so many questions about, so who is this guy? How does he know about Mike the TV? Is ReBoot also a TV show in universe? Because how the fuck does that work? What does this guy, this user, have to do with the rest of the plot of the show? As far as I can tell, precisely dick all. He is there purely to flip off the fans. Just when it's you could be going somewhere with this. You could be building an interesting plot. No, fuck you for liking the show from however many years ago, because we're just going to shit all over.
And the thing is what nods they do make to the original fans that aren't mean-spirited like this guy are just so far out of left field that they just feel completely out of place and random. When Bob first shows up, he mistakes the New Generation Guardians for viruses and wants to get in a short firefight with them, and they're like, well, wait, okay, what's going on? Who the hell are you? And he just goes, I come from the net, replaces peoples and nations to this place, Mainframe. And I'm just like...
Seriously? Yeah.
Okay, so if I poke you again, are you going to say, welcome to Canaria? Are you a Final Fantasy NPC? Is that what's going on here?
It was... And the way it was delivered was so flat as well.
And
the fact that they got the original voice actor back.
And and he's just in no shits given mode throughout this whole episode. It's clear he just does not give a flying hoot what's going on.
Well, you can't really blame him, considering that he's slavishly reciting dialogue 20 years ago without any regard for what context it was meant to be used in. In this case, the intro to the show to explain the concept. They're just slavishly trotting out oh, the fans will like this because they're idiots.
Yeah,
So he does get a little better when they're actually inside the game later. he actually does put some effort in. But for the most part, it's like he just gives off this aura of why the hell am I here?
And speaking of the game, let's go back to the quote unquote user. Let's go back to the basement dwelling loser as we figure out what his role in this episode is. And it is just to play an old 20-year-old game. Because he whips out, I swear to God, a green Xbox case containing a CD of a game from the original show. I think it was Starship Alcatraz. Mm-hmm. And he loads it up, and it's basically just to play up the whole, I guess the user inputs the games for pleasure thing from the original series. And it's like, okay, there's fan service with a purpose where you're kind of sending knowing nods to your audience, like, oh, this is a little treat for you people who've been waiting for this for 20 years. And then there's just throwing something out with no regard for the meaning of what your showing is. And that's pretty much what this whole episode was. It was just throwing out a bunch of random trivia and going, hey, we remember this.
Except I don't think they do. It was like they'd watched the first half of season 1 on fast forward and then got a copy of the script of like one of the early episodes and copied pasted bits wholesale.
And the part that really frustrates me about this, and this is something that didn't even hit me until after I'd finished watching the episode and walked away, is for those of us who watched the original show and watched the last couple seasons, a lot of shit happened in those seasons. Seasons 3 and 4 were epic. Like, there was character development at the wazoo, there was world building, a whole bunch of new characters were introduced. We actually had credible threats and real conflict, and we got to see characters grow and develop beyond, just being one-note stereotypes. It really felt like, the show was becoming an actual real world. It's pretty much all but stated that by rebooting Mainframe in this episode, that they erased all of that. So all those characters that you love from the original series, Matrix, Andrea, Mouse, all the development that occurred, Hexadecimal becoming a hero and sacrificing herself to destroy Damon, all of that's gone. And speaking of Hexadecimal, Skyblaze, I want to get your thoughts on her character in this episode, because she's like your number one favorite character from the show, isn't she?
Certainly in the top 2 list. Hexadecimal's brilliant, and I love her to pieces. In this episode, she's probably the best thing in it.
Not a high bar to clear.
No. But they got the original actress back, and it takes her a few lines to get back into character, but when she does, it's like, there's Hex. She's in her season 1 outfit, which, again, is curious. So I have to wonder if the mainframe in this is like some sort of safe mode backup or something. Anyway,
I couldn't tell you, but like just the whole.
Let's hope it is.
Yeah. So the basic plot of the episode is Mainframe is taking Hexadecimal from Mainframe out into cyberspace so they can raise hell together. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. It ends on this cliffhanger. The Sorcerer doesn't show up at all in this episode, so we don't know if he's aware of what Megabyte is doing. We still don't know what the hell his plan is at all.
It's sort of implied that Megabyte has got hold of Hex so she can help him rebel against the Sorcerer.
Yeah, that's the implication I got too. But like, the thing is, like, we said, there was a germ of a good idea in this series. There was a seed. Maybe that these people actually really do care about what they're putting together, and they're just working on the best conditions they have. But then you get to episode 10, and the whole thing just crashes and burns so spectacularly, that you feel like this is an episode that was made with nothing but contempt. For the fans, for the executives, for the franchise itself. It really... The only reason I can think of that they would have done the episode this way was if they were trying to intentionally sabotage the show so that it wouldn't continue in this manner. And if the show winds up being canceled, all I can say is mission accomplished, because God knows I don't have any inclination to keep watching after this.
The really sad thing is, though, that if it does get cancelled, it'll take any hope of a proper reboot revival with it. And that would be an awful tragedy. I would rather somebody, a competent writer and producer, get hold of this thing and actually turn it around and turn it into something good and save this thing than have all of ReBoot burn with it.
So, but apparently there's another 10 episodes coming. But like I said, I don't think I'm gonna be getting back into this. And like, the weird thing is, like, I've already had some people try and defend this show. I mean, I was kind of live blogging on my Facebook my thoughts on the show, and I mentioned after the 10th episode that I wasn't going to come back, and somebody DM'd me. It was like, well, even for a Netflix series, it's going to take more than 10 episodes for it to find its groove. And I was like, excuse me? Castlevania established it was going to kick ass with only 4 episodes. Your argument is bullshit.
It's also, as I said to Dr. before the show, if you compare it against the standards of writing of something like, say, Steven Universe or Gravity Falls or some of the other shows, modern children's shows, and you think of how much characterization and storytelling and world building and plot are put into Steven Universe, which has episodes which are 10 minutes long, and you compare it to this, there is no comparison at all. There is so much more that could be done with this. It's just, it's not clearing that bar, and it needs to do so much better if it's gonna be worthy. And I understand why people are defending it. Oh God, I want it to be good. Or maybe people are just defending it because I like the cheese. Fair enough. But appreciate it for what it is, and look at it for what it is, not for what you want it to be. And at the moment, it's not good. And it could be a lot better.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe the next 10 episodes come out. Maybe if they turn things around by that point, I'll change my mind. But right now, I'm ready to just walk away from this. It's just it's weird. I came into this recording expecting to get all good and angry, but the less worked up I'm able to get, it's because it's just there's nothing here.
It's just sad because there's so much that could have been done with this.
I don't want to get mad at it. I want to take it behind the shed and give it a pet and tell it that it'll be all right while I put the revolver up to the back of its head. I want to do a Lenny from Mice and Men with this show. That's an obscure literature reference.
I understood that, but then a lot of people of my age and slightly older and slightly younger will, because we have to study it for GCSE.
That's something to pull out for your high school kids of Mice and Men. But yeah, it's just I can't get worked up. No, sir, I don't like it. That's all I can really say.
I didn't like it either. It's just I want to kind of like take it and rewrite it and make it good. So I can give it here. I can fix this.
Let's go into wild speculation mode since we got a few minutes left. What do you think it's going to take to turn this show around? What needs to happen?
Okay, if we go on full on enemy civil. So, because Megabyte's going to betray Hex, or vice versa, because that's the way their relationship works. At which point we have a potential 3-way face-off between Hacker Bloke, Hex, and Megabyte. That could be fascinating if you focus on them and have teenagers with attitude kind of running around going, oh God, we don't know what to do, and end up recruiting Bob, who then subsequently recruits the rest of his cast, who actually have, characterization and are interesting. And at the same time, you start actually giving personalities to the teenagers, so they actually have something to do, and rework those bloody uniforms so they actually have faces, for God's sake.
Yes, we see you trying to copy Iron Man, show. Don't think you're clever.
And at that point, have that happens so that they're like, okay, this is a huge situation, and there's a lot of damage being done in the middle of this war. We need a way to figure it out. And then maybe have Vera working alongside Dot to be like mission control and the planning department, and then have Bob take over the leadership role. So, what's-his-face, Leader Boy, can actually have a personality outside of Leader Boy. And then train them up to be proper Guardians instead of the half-assed shit they're doing now.
And bring back Glitch. I miss Glitch.
Yes. He clearly had him, but he wasn't addressing him.
So, and for God's sakes, tell us what the sorcerer wants.
Yeah.
Because, like, he's Snidely Whiplash at this point. He's just doing evil shit for the sake of being evil, and that's not interesting. That's just, you know, if I wanted a villain to twirl his mustache, I just go watch Rocky and Bullwinkle, which apparently is getting a reboot later this year. God help us.
Yay! It's not working out well so far.
But yeah. So I guess final thoughts on Reboot: The Guardian Code.
It's not very good. It could be a lot better than it is, but it needs a lot of love and care and help to be even acceptable. Yeah, okay, for most people it's free on it's there on Netflix, but I wouldn't bother unless it vastly improves in the next 10 episodes. Really don't.
So that's all the time that we have for Nerd Power this week. Thank you as always for tuning in. We will see you guys next week when we discuss decompressed narratives. How often is it going to work when you take something that's really short, like a short story or a movie, and try and stretch out over an entire television series, like what is apparently going to be happening with The Lord of the Rings? So yeah, that'll be fun. We will see you guys next week. Thank you as always for tuning in. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm Skyblaze.
We'll see you next week. Taka, play us out.